Hello, racers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Race in Review, the podcast started by a couple of sim racers that love Formula One and started this show as F1 in Focus before we got in trouble with the FOM. On our YouTube channel, we bring you all things sim racing, and on this podcast, we bring you our opinions about the latest Formula One race. And of course, we predict the upcoming race as well. Oh yeah, one of us supports Lewis, the other one supports Max, and we still get along in the wonderful world of Formula One. My name is John, and I'll be your host today, talking about the race in Azerbaijan. And I couldn't do this alone. I am joined by the man with the best hair in the business. It's none other than James Hazel. Hi, James.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah,
Just 3 points lost this weekend. I'm all right.
uh, yeah, yeah. Well, we're talking about our predictions already.
Oh no, that's not 3 point. Oh, I'm getting close. We'll talk about that in a moment, James.
Yeah,
Oh, can we say? Oh, let me put it like this way. I could summarize the race. I can try, but if you would give this a number 1 to number 10, this was the third highest rated Azerbaijan race, which says something about this track. What would you rate this race?
I can believe that. I'd say the race was like an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a very good race.
I thought it was a very, very good race. I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think the only race that's been better so far this season was probably, well, maybe there was two. Monza was on par, possibly better because of the end result and because it happened at Monza.
Fair.
Ferrari won at Monza. And then Silverstone, and not just because Lewis won, but because of the mixed conditions and it just being an absolutely crazy hectic race. I think Silverstone's probably the best race of the season, but this one's a joint
Pretty good, huh?
second, probably, or third, maybe.
No rain. We still got fireworks. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Let me.
Yeah.
I have not prepared this properly, but I'll try to summarize this race in, well, about 1 or 2 minutes, shall we?
Okay.
Right. But this one is freestyling. So Oscar Piastri claimed victory at the end of this captivating 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 if you're James, Azerbaijan Grand Prix, narrowly beating Charles Leclerc to the checkered flag in a race-long multi-car battle on the streets of Baku, as Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz dramatically crashed out in the penultimate lap, I think, lap 50 out of 51.
Something like that, yeah.
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 It was Piastri who came on top, James, because having expertly defended P1 and maybe having a secret weapon in a mini DRS. We'll talk about that shortly.
Yeah.
He gained a little bit of breathing space when Leclerc's tires faded in the closing laps, which pushed the Ferrari into the clutches of Perez and Sainz. But that was enough just to get rid of him as well, apparently.
Yeah.
That means George Russell, always in the right spot, claims the third place on the podium. All right, so that was a big win from him. Meanwhile, Lando Norris, on an alternative strategy, starting from P15, having a disastrous qualifying, still finishes fourth, one place in front of Max Verstappen, who started sixth and finished fifth. Fernando Alonso, I have to talk about him. Talk about lonely, so lonely. Had a very lonely afternoon as Aston Martin, but being promoted to sixth position after the number 2 and 3 crashed. Meanwhile, Alex Albon and my new superstar, Franco Colapinto, built on Williams' strong qualifying to score a valuable haul of points for the Grove-based outfit. What a race they had. Lewis Hamilton finished the double points victory, of double points race for Mercedes, I should say. Coming back from back of the grid, pit stop start.
Pit lane start, yeah.
Pit lane start.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. And also, talk about rookies. Not only Colapinto did well, so did Ollie Bearman, who impressively finished just ahead of an experienced teammate, Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah.
One driver who we have to mention, although he didn't get much screen time, is Pierre Gasly. He rose from the rear of the field to take 12th, having been disqualified on a Saturday, just followed by Daniel's car and the Red Bull on third. Many power engines being taken, many penalties being taken. We criticizing, or at least I'm criticizing Lando Norris for not doing so. He proved us wrong.
Yeah.
McLaren proved us wrong. The only one that isn't proving anyone wrong currently is Valtteri Bottas. Well, finishing that last once again, and apparently only talking about living in America and driving IndyCar. Have we seen the last of him now? The one DNF or two DNFs we had were Yuki, the first one, and Stroll, who retired later on because they touched each other in lap 1.
Don't forget Perez and Sainz, obviously.
Of course. I forgot about that, but not forgot about, but yeah, that is definitely true. And to top it all off, we had our first virtual safety car in 6 races. Still not a real safety car.
No.
We'll talk about that in a moment as well. I tried, James. I tried to do it in 1 or 2 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah,
what are your first impressions about the race?
I thought it was a fantastic race. I thought Norris had a great recovery drive. Piastri had just probably the best drive of his career so far. His overtake on Leclerc was just chef's kiss. that was just magic to watch. That was a brilliant move. Leclerc as well. I mean, he still had a great race. Disappointing to finish second, starting from pole and leading the start of the race. But still hats off to him. He scored a very worthy second position, and if he'd have won it, he would have deserved it as well. But it's not the way it went for him. Colapinto, so impressed with that kid. The most annoying thing about this is that we already know he's not driving next year because we know Williams have got Sainz coming in. So he's just he's just like coming to Formula One. He's just immediately settled and immediately pulling results out and just solid drive, absolutely amazing. Score points in his second drive as well. That's brilliant. He's clearly a better driver than Sargent at this point. He's already out-qualified Albon. That's the first time Albon's been out-qualified since
36 races. I checked.
Yeah, 2022, I think it was. Yeah, that's a long time. And he does it in his second race in the team. That's just amazing. Behrman as well. Pretty solid weekend. Maybe not quite as impressive as the Ferrari weekend.
Still
but
beat
he's not driving a Ferrari, is he? He's driving a Haas, and he beat Nico. So what else?
Without ramming anyone off.
Yeah.
Like no penalty points.
What more could you want from him? I thought that was a great drive from him as well. Yeah. Hamilton's race a little bit disappointing. I thought personally, not great. It's qualifying again, still not very good. He's really struggling. Whether this is watching somebody kind of declining, basically, maybe could be. We'll see what happens at Ferrari, I suppose, and what they give him next year. Obviously, the Mercedes still isn't a great car. I mean, if you watch any of his onboards,
Russell brings it to third, though.
Well, yeah. Well, because 2 cars in front of him crashed
out.
Alcy
finished 5th. Still.
Yeah, and Hamilton started from the pit lane, so... but yeah, that car for both of them, not great. And when he's got Bono on the radio telling him to cool his tyres down, he's already struggling with the driving and the performance of the car. It's just not good to see.
You're good at Mercedes, right? You know them, the team, you know them well. I got one question about Mercedes.
Yep.
What's going on with their hot seats? For the last 3-4 races, both the drivers are complaining about their seats getting too hot.
Yeah, it's like 3 races. You'd think that they'd be able to put some sort of heat shield stuff under the. I mean, I make it sound so easy. It's Formula One. It's never easy, and it's all about weight saving. But yeah, there's obviously something happening under the car that is causing a lot of heat. I think at one point they were saying it was just because the car just skimming along the road basically under high downforce. When it's not under high, well, it is effectively under high downforce, but when it's going fast and got the most downforce, pressing it into the ground.
I think it's a good thing they don't wear white suits anymore.
Probably, yeah.
The first thing Lewis said was, "My seat's so hot." Then they switched to George Russell, and he said on free practice 1, "Guys, my seat's again really hot."
Yeah,
It was the first 2 sentences on the board radio on Friday.
yeah. Just some sort of.
We should put it on the bingo
card
for now.
Yeah. What else is there to say about the race?
Well, Stroll. So much more. Much more.
Stroll.
We have to talk about the elephant in the room first, James, because talking about predictions, right? Yep. I made one prediction a while back, and I want to say I told you so. But did I or did I not predict our dear friend going to Aston Martin?
Yeah, you did call that. Yeah, well done. I didn't think he'd go there, but I mean, it kind of fits. He's never gone to a top team when they've been near the top. He's always gone to a lower team and then tried to drag them up. So it'll be interesting. I don't know what influence he's going to have on the car over the course of next year. I'm sure he'll walk in with blueprints dated with the date.
Have you seen that before?
I think he did that when he went to McLaren, was it? Yeah.
Which is one way I'm talking about Adrian Newey, of course, just to make sure. He's been on a press conference, which was pretty amazing to see, since he's still a Red Bull employee.
Well, he's Red Bull, but he's not, is he? He's not any part of the Formula One team anymore at all. He's working entirely now just on that supercar, track car that they're making. And he will continue to be working on that even when he starts working for Aston Martin, because it sounds like that'll run into at least into midsummer next year, and he starts at Aston Martin in March. So, but he did say in the press conference was it in the press conference? I watched a podcast that he was on as well. It might have been in that podcast where he said that would mainly just be like video calls and stuff like that. He won't be too heavily involved by that point. But that is a pet project of his, so he obviously wants to see that to the end.
No.
But yeah, I think
he's still building a Red Bull 17, right? Still building the hypercar RB17.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That the hyper track car that they're doing. Yeah, he's still be involved in that even when he's over to Aston Martin. But yeah,
I quite like the news. Honestly, I was like, I can see this happen. Actually, I called it, but that wasn't the reason why I had to mention it. But it's just such a big shift that it needs some attention to this show.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good for the sport. I think if it, I mean, Aston Martin were already in a pretty good position by sealing the deal with Honda to be their engine supplier. I think that's a massive move for them. To then get Adrian Newey involved and to manage to get him starting next year so that he can be working on the 2026 car.
And now dropping points so they get more wind tunnel time every year.
Yeah, we talked about that, didn't we? Last week or whenever it was, the last podcast or the one before, whether Aston Martin were purposefully tanking the season so that they got more wind tunnel time and all that.
Now you know why.
But yeah, I think it's good for the sport. I think shifting key players such as Adrian Newey over to a team that is otherwise not a top team, and rather than him just bouncing from, say, Aston Martin from Red Bull to Mercedes or Red Bull to Ferrari, and it just feeling like a passing of power between already top players. I don't think anyone would class Aston Martin as a top player right now. Obviously, they're setting themselves up to be in the future. But I think it's really good. I mean, it's like Jonathan Wheatley's going over to Audi, isn't he?
Yeah.
We got Binotto as well. So, there's quite a shift in the landscape. Rather than having, say, 3 or maybe 4 teams that have got kind of the big names in the sport. It feels like it's all kind of spreading out a bit, and whether that's partly to do with the regulations on spending and budgets for team members having an impact, possibly is. So there's obviously something going on at Red Bull as well, because
You think?
there's a lot of people abandoning a potentially sinking ship there.
I do think
But-
I look good in green, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're turning to Team Green, are you? Well, I mean, they've already said. Well,
It's now blue versus silver. We might have to do green versus red.
Yeah, I think the quote was the quote that came out from Mike Crack wasn't specifically "We want Max Verstappen." It was more along the lines of, "If anyone can have Max Verstappen, they'd make space for him." So they kind of
the door's always open
idea.
for him. He said,
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, they were alluding to the fact that there would be a team open to him, just like any team would be. I mean, yeah.
Even after this weekend, James.
Especially after this weekend.
So much to talk about, but let's start where credit is due, shall we? Focus point number 1. I got a quiz for you as well with that.
All right.
Okay. Who scored the most points over the last 5 races?
Piastri.
Who scored the most points over the last 6 races?
Piastri.
7?
Piastri.
8?
All the way up to 10. Piastri.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I know. He's having a brilliant run right now. Can't fault the kid.
Amazing.
I love his. I've said this before. I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year. That I just love his demeanor. I love his personality and how he comes across over the radio, how he comes across in interviews. He never gets sucked into kind of the sort of catty.
He's got a good manager, though.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't get dragged into the drama, does he? He doesn't start sort of, like even Lando sort of. Well, I say even Lando. I mean, he's friends with Max, but he said negative things about Max in the press or in interviews that have then ended up in the press. But
and straight after this race as well, again.
Yeah, you never see any of that from Piastri.
And it's the only driver where I know which mom we know.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I don't know. He's got the kind of the mentality, not mentality. I don't know how to word it. Just the kind of the attitude and the reactions of somebody who's been there and done it already. Like he's not acting like it's his second season in Formula One and he's finally starting to get wins. He's acting like somebody who knows they can win and who's won races before, which obviously has done in junior categories. But, the sort of level of success he's getting at the moment in Formula One, he's just taking it in his stride, and it's really nice to see. And yeah, I just really like him. I think he's a great driver. I think he's a nice kid. And I really hope that he has... his career carries on this trajectory, because I want to see his celebrations when he wins a world championship.
He doesn't celebrate. I think he just wins it.
Oh, that's exactly why.
Thank you, guys, and yes, put aside a beer for me, right?
Yeah, that's why I want to see it. He'll win his first championship, and he'll be like, "Thanks, guys. That was really good. Thanks."
I hope it's not this year, though.
Well, I mean, mathematically, he still has a chance.
Well, if he keeps driving like this,
I mean, yeah, I suppose so.
The new papaya rules say that he has to let Lando go first, but it's just 32 points difference between them.
Well, that was before Lando had a bad qualifying. Obviously, they just wanted the win and as many points as they could from this race when they knew that Lando and Piastri weren't going to be racing against each other. Unless there'd been some sort of iffy safety car, but I guess they would have crossed that bridge when it came to it, and it never happened. But yeah, I mean, if we had if Perez and Sainz hadn't wiped out, Piastri would have made more gains.
Yeah, it would be less than 25 points difference.
Yeah, it would have caught up closer to Lando and closer to Max. And all he would need is one more weekend like that, and he'd be right in the fight. But then you could say that about any driver, really, or any of the drivers that are kind of in it. So if Lando has a good result and Max and Piastri have a bad result, then Lando's right in it. If Max has a good result and the two McLaren drivers have a bad result, then Max has walked away with it at that point. Like it's on a knife edge right now. Well, it's not a knife edge because it could go more than two ways, but you know what I mean. It's very close.
Tight. Yeah.
Very tense. All the drivers right now will be feeling the pressure because no one can afford a bad result, certainly based on the current form of the current championship leaders.
Yeah, 100%. But Piastri drove like a legend.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to, we need to give him credit. Congratulations on the win, of course.
Yeah.
McLaren in general, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean they had a great race. They had a great strategy for Norris to get him back up the field. I mean, it helps that he just has a fast car anyway. They managed Piastri really well. The pit stops were pretty good. In fact, their pit stops I think were faster than Red Bull's this weekend. Red Bull didn't have a great pit stop for Max's first stop, I think it was.
Fastest stop this weekend was from Bottas.
Oh, really? How the tables have turned. Yeah. Yeah, I think McLaren were just on it. There was no. I mean, to be fair, most of the indecisiveness seems to be between Lando, and you'll have to forgive me because I can't remember the name of his engineer. But it's that side of the garage that seems to be a little bit more indecisive, whereas Piastri and his guy are very much like, what do you think about doing this? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, we're doing it. And there's no kind of... It's similar to what used to happen with Leclerc, where he'd get presented with like 5 options while he's driving.
Well, they're still talking about plan A to C. And sometimes X gets involved or something.
Yeah. But, but Leclerc used to get that a lot, and it wasn't presented like that. It wasn't, what do you think of plan C? Because they already know what plan C is. They've talked about that in a briefing before the race. It used to be, do you think we should do this, or do you think we should do that, or maybe we should do this? Like they give him 3 options over a lap to make a decision, and you can't really do that to a driver, especially somewhere like Baku. But go back to Piastri and McLaren. Piastri doesn't get that, and that side of the garage seems to be functioning better in that way. That it's literally just, okay, there's an option to do. An option for this is now open because of whatever the scenario in the race is. What do you think? And then kind of leave it to the driver a little bit, but whilst giving him the facts. So yeah, hats off to McLaren, especially Piastri's side of the garage right now, because they are on form.
James.
Yeah.
If a car, let's say a certain orange car, is fast on the straight that the red car behind him with DRS, and they show an onboard footage of the back wing, and it sort of flexes. We need to talk about that, I guess, as well.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Flexi wings or...
Mini DRS, it's what they labeled it. But everyone labeled it this weekend.
It's always been a thing. Flexi wings. It's not. I don't see it as anything other than that. It's a flexi wing.
Well, this one was more complicated than that, though.
Well,
pretty ingenious, honestly, if you look at.
Yes and no, because all it's doing is stalling the rear wing out a bit, which is what they always try to do with any of the flexing wings. They just try and stall out the downforce. So yeah, it's clever. It's always clever because there are specific rules to measure the flexibility of a wing or any body part that shouldn't be moving to see whether it's compliant with that. And they've obviously found a way that is compliant with the rules and the measuring of the rear wing while still flexing under load, and it seems to be what they've done with the front wing as well. It's got to get looked at, I'm sure. They'll decide something. They must do, unless we've got, how many races have we got left now? Like 6 races, I think.
7 left.
7 races left. I mean, it might be that they decide it's too late in the day, or it's not worth doing now because they don't want to or don't want to be seen as interfering with the championship. But then inaction is also interfering with the championship. So I don't know. It's a complicated one for people
we
that
discussed
are
it
more than me to figure out.
Like I've said it last week as well, my annoyance with this is not as so far as this is just part of Formula 1, right? And if you're on the receiving end, like in this situation, I feel like as a Red Bull fan I am, or if you're the one doing it as Red Bull has done in the past, I do think it has to be communicated. So we've been talking about the Flexi wing from the McLarens for 3 weeks now, at least 3 races now.
Well, what do they need to communicate though? Because
that either it's they're investigating or that it's good. Then
they looked at the front wing and they said it's fine. They said they're not taking any action on it. They did the same with Mercedes. They said that literally the day after we did our podcast last time.
All right. So mini DRS should be talked about this week.
The front wing they're not looking at now. They've and the thing is you've already got rules. So if the rules say if their way of measuring it is to literally just go and grab a 10 kilogram dumbbell or whatever and put that on the wing and see how much it moves. If they've designed it so that it doesn't move under that kind of stress, then they've passed the test because the test is just that. It's kind of, Red Bull did the exact same thing, 2010, 11, 12, whenever it was.
But got cancelled halfway through the season.
Yeah, they did then change it. Yeah, that's right.
That's the worry issue. There should be it feels a little bit. I think it's smart. It feels also a little bit like
I don't know. I mean, the sport's being run completely different now as well.
Yeah, that's also true.
The rules are a lot more defined than they ever used to be. It used to be, there were like these potential loopholes, and they didn't seem to be on the ball as much as they are now on how they write the rules. And I mean, even then, they've still had to come up with like very specifically writing asymmetrical brakes are not allowed effectively because it was sort of written in, but not clear enough that it left it open to be interpreted as like, well, you haven't actually closed the door on that, so we're going to do it. If they did do it, we don't know. But they have rewritten the rules to say quite specifically, you can't do that.
No, so I think that should be happening as well. Because about the back wing, the Flexi wing on the backside, there are rules in place. There's dots on the wing.
Yeah, but if they're still being measured, like if they're not failing the test, then they're not failing the test, and the test is what determines whether it's legal or not. So if it passes the test by definition of the rules, it's legal. So
I'm wondering though. I don't think I'm not saying they're cheating. Don't get me wrong, not at all. Just to make that 100% clear, right? I think it's smart. I think this is.
It's like the double diffuser of 2000.
Exactly. I think
2006.
I think it's just super smart, and I quite like this. But I find it interesting that McLaren suddenly finds all these tricks throughout the season, because this is also a new one. This would have been spotted earlier.
Yeah,
if it were the case.
I'm going to correct myself again. It was 2009 was the double diffuser. But yeah, it's clever. It's I do agree with you that I think if all the teams or if certainly multiple teams had been doing this from the very start of the season, they might have turned around and said that's going against the spirit of the rules. But then the other problem that they've created for themselves with the budget cap is that if you turn around and say, actually, you can't do that anymore, then the team would say, well, we've just spent a load of money on that and it passed the test like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, but that has happened before, right? Red Bull had to replace the whole floor 2 years ago. I mean, for them, they worked out well, and for Ferrari, it didn't. So,
well, they didn't have to replace the floor. They just had to raise the minimum ride height.
Yeah, which I mean, Red Bull didn't have to. But okay, I guess what
Yeah,
you're
they
saying.
didn't have to spend any money on that. It was literally just a setup change, so it was supposed to really affect everybody roughly the same, and obviously it didn't play out that way.
No.
But that
That's
was
the other
that
case,
was that
right?
again. That was a safety thing. Like everyone talks about like Mercedes
Mm,
and Toto and stuff. No, that came about from Sainz and all the other drivers. Sainz has gone on record of saying that in an interview that all the drivers turned around and said, "You can't let this carry on because we're going to wreck our backs and potentially our brains because we're just rattling around for laps on laps on laps,
yeah, I
bouncing
think we
off the
had
floor."
yeah, I agree. That's what they say, but we had the discussion when it was actually the case. And I also
I
said
know
it's not.
Toto was pushing it,
Yeah,
and so was some other team principals, but all the drivers were, and it was a case of if you don't step in and stop something, then the team, if you leave it up to the teams, all the teams will say, "Yeah, we don't want to do that because it's bad for the drivers." But then secretly, or not even secretly, they'll all be looking down the paddock
exactly.
thinking, "Well, we might raise our ride height to be safe for the drivers, but if they don't, they'll be faster than us." And then it just becomes a paranoia thing. And then
That's fair. That's fair.
and then when you put it to the drivers like that, the drivers will say, "Well, okay, I'll go for it."
Yeah.
But Ricardo said it.
Well, everyone except Red Bull because they got it right.
Well, yeah, because they were fast and thought they'd be slowed down. As it happens, it didn't slow them down. But even Perez and Max would have said it because it came from the like I can't remember what they call it, but like the drivers group, and they basically said to the rule makers, listen to us, ignore the teams.
Yes,
we can't keep doing this.
and that's. I mean, we have to applaud them for that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we talked about mini DRS.
Yeah.
You definitely got me there. Well spoken.
I just think, I mean, if they want to start investigating it, I mean, what they need to do
they have to because it's like all
they have
over
to.
every site.
But it depends, if it's a case that I don't know, maybe it's not been tested correctly or something, or maybe maybe it does slip through the rules one way or another, but and maybe they've got to look at that. But if it's the case that it passes the rules,
well, the thing is with this situation, James, is that the wing itself isn't flexing.
Yeah,
a part of the wing is opening up.
Yeah,
right. And
but then
there's no rule that says that
2022, their rear wing just kept flapping, didn't it? Like that, and like so. I think it's very late in the day to be making a team make a fundamental change to a design if that design does.
Well, we could see a lot of people in Austin, I think, having the same design.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a too complicated one to put.
What they'll do, if they don't change it this year, I do think it would be difficult for them to get away with doing that now so late in the season. But all they'll do is they'll change the rules on it next year so that it can't be done next year.
Yeah.
And they'll just tighten it up. Because that's what they do, If
and we'll see them all in Austin, right? We have a 4-week break.
Yeah.
So they will just copy it.
Yeah,
this is
if they can.
But this is easy.
There's obviously some clever engineering going on there as well, and whether the other teams can replicate that.
Thing with the rear wing is it's pretty easy to spot on all cameras. I think
it's easy to see.
I mean, everyone on the television was like pointing out there's movement over there. If they could see it on television, I mean, these teams have dedicated photographers and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Should be. I'm curious to see how that goes. I do want to highlight, we spoke about it in the intro though, I do want to highlight Colapinto and Behrman for a second though.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into predictions shortly. Behrman started off woefully in the weekend. Free practice 1 was very slow. He binned his car in free practice 2, I think, or at the end of 1, I think 2 actually.
Yeah, didn't he? Well, Colapinto did the same free practice 1, that one, I think, wasn't it?
So it didn't start out great for both of these guys.
Yeah.
But both out-qualified their teammate and outperformed their teammate. Well, in the end, I think Colapinto ended behind Albon. But Albon had a insane stint. So, and he's got the experience, but nevertheless, seriously impressed by both of these rookies.
Yeah.
And neither of these rookies are champions in F2.
Yeah.
And the champions don't even get a chance in Formula 1 anymore.
No,
What a shame this is.
no,
Richard Verschoor won the Formula 2 here. He's never getting in Formula 1.
no, it's not really about that anymore. It's about how what they did in
which
even
agent you've got.
junior series than F2, and whether they've already been picked up by a team at that point. So, like, Kimi Antonelli getting signed by Mercedes at whatever age, and similar to Max getting signed by Red Bull and stuff like that. And, I mean, Max is a bit different, I guess, but like, Kimi Antonelli's not massively looked great.
Poor
Certainly at the
season.
start of
Just poor season.
yeah, but he's won a lot of other championships, so.
True. Colapinto is good for sponsor though.
Absolutely.
Will he be in a Haas next season?
It's the space for him in Haas next season. There is, isn't there? No, there isn't.
There isn't?
They've already got... no, they've got Ocon and Behrman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I don't think there's space for him on the grid.
Kick?
Could be Kick, but they've already got Hulkenberg, haven't they?
Yeah, so you need a rookie next time. You don't need experience.
Yeah.
And he brings in a ton of sponsors, apparently.
Yeah. And a lot of social media interaction.
He is funny, though.
Probably a lot of sales. Well, not just that, but like his fans are just very active.
Well, it's the Perez effect, right?
It is, yeah.
And I think, like impressive, insane drive. It's a tough circuit. It's tough on the. Well, it's not Singapore. It's going to be really tough. So I'm curious how they do that, or how he does there. But it must suck if you're if you are Sargent now, though.
Yeah.
Seeing him again.
It does suck for Sargent, but I mean, they've obviously made the right choice and they had to do what was right for the team. And Sargent had a year and a half in the sport, and he just didn't make any impressions. What was his best result? I think he scored a point in America.
Yeah, was that 1 point?
Yeah, he scored a point at his home race, didn't he? Was that at Miami or was that at Kota? I can't remember. He scored a point in the States, I'm sure he did.
I believe you.
But other than that, what's he really done? He just hasn't impressed. And during the first season, you could sort of look at it and say, well, he's a rookie. He's not in a great team, being in Williams. Fair enough. But if you compare him to what Albon's doing, I mean, Albon's a great driver. He's proven to be a great driver.
I heard Albon was already top 5 driver this weekend. Like people say, he's a top 5. He should be in one of the top 3 teams. He's a top 5 driver.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
he doesn't perform for Sainz or Perez or Russell. I think.
No, I think if you wanted to tear off the drivers, I'd still say Max. Maybe half a tier below that is Lewis. And then half a tier below that, you've got like tier 2. You've got Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, probably Piastri based on the last 10 races.
Well, he's definitely up there, yeah.
Yeah. And then below that, I mean, maybe you put Albon like half a tier, like halfway below that.
He's Formula 1.5 champion.
Yeah. Like, I'd rate him above Russell at this point.
James, how good is it that we now see that talent in the races and we see them? Well, of course, it was an insane race, insane fight. Every single position was fought for, except where Alonso was, I think. He just played it clean. But yeah, we've seen some great drives. We saw at one point we saw a number 1, 2, and 3 McLaren, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull.
Yep.
Followed by Williams in fourth.
Yeah.
Followed by a McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari, or Ferrari, McLaren, something like that. At least it's oh man, I enjoyed this race so much, except for the result.
It's great. I mean, the only thing I'm not going to like about it is that Red Bull and Max are in trouble. But
yeah, we need to talk about that next week.
It's kind of what I like about it, because last year was just too predictable.
We need to talk about it next week.
Yeah, last year, every race, it was just, okay, Max wins, who's finishing second?
But now it's so bad that I actually starts to get in my head, which is
Well,
why it needs a dedicated podcast. But let's do that after Singapore, because
yeah,
probably if you think Baku was bad, he came away with a 3-point loss to Norris. I think
yeah.
he's not unhappy about that because Baku and Singapore
It's 4
usually are
points with the
bad for
fastest lap.
Max. Sorry?
4 points with the fastest lap, wasn't it?
I think 2 points difference and 3 points with fast lap. But
No, that would have been without the crash. It was 3 points and 1 point for the fastest lap, finishing fourth and fifth.
all right. I believe you, although I had it written down differently. But I believe you.
Yeah, I think that was where they would have. That's what the points would have been if Sainz and Perez hadn't wiped each other out. It basically gave Norris 1 extra point.
Oh, so lucky.
Yeah. Perez, not so much. Finally has a good race. And then ends up in a wall with his good friend, Carlos Sainz.
True. Unfortunately, Norris has 12 points plus 1 is 13 points. Well, Max gets fifth for 10 points. So it's 3-point difference. And I was correct. Sorry. It's 25, 18, 15, 12, 10.
Okay.
So it's 3-point difference.
Oh, sure, it's 4. Okay.
But it wouldn't matter because the other way around, it would be fifth and sixth would be 10 and 8. And still 1 point extra, still be 3.
Right, okay.
In the end, it doesn't even matter, some would say.
No. It's still...
But still, I think Max signs for this one. And if he survives Singapore somewhat, there's 4 weeks gap, which then we'll see. I think Austin is the big decider.
Yeah. Max needs to carry on with massive damage limitation in Singapore.
Maybe Piastri helps.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, well, it depends. It depends what's going to happen as far as qualifying and the race or the start of the race, how that pans out between the drivers, and whether they do stick to we've just got to put all our eggs in the Lando basket because he's actually ahead on points at the moment. So statistically, he's got the best chance. I suspect that's what they'll do.
Yeah, although statistically, Piastri has the best last results for the last 10 races. So 7 races to go. And don't forget about Charles, because he's not saying it out loud, but that gap ain't massive either.
No, he's not too far behind. I think the thing is, I mean,
it's so fun though. Honestly, like it's just a shame my man is number 1 and just being chased down. Yeah. Else it would have been more exciting.
McLaren kind of messed it up in Monza, I think, because neither of them were on for the win.
Nope.
And if you think back to Hungary, when they were begging Lando to give his position back, one of the things they were saying was like, you might need Piastri later in the year. Think about later in the year in the championship. And then when you get to a point where you could swap the drivers around to benefit Lando, they don't then enact that. And I think that was a big mistake in Monza. But I do think going into Singapore, unless you end up with Lando starting 5th and Piastri on pole and there'd be no way to swap them around, I think they will just put all their eggs in Lando now.
Which
in the Lando basket, because they've got to think about, like, you know, because he had that bad result this weekend, which, I mean, it wasn't the end of the world.
I don't think it was his fault personally either, right? I don't get why McLaren takes so much risks into Q2, putting them out so late. They don't need to do that on that car, on that track now.
No, but I think I need to fact check this. I saw a comment about this and I meant to look it up to make sure this was right.
What was your comment?
Apparently he had gone off track on his final lap, and that was one of the reasons why I had to abort it.
2 things. He had the short yellow flag. He was the only one getting the yellow flag, which McLaren was sort of pissed about. But I think
on the replays, he wasn't actually yellow when he got, like, he didn't hit the... He wasn't being shown yellow.
No, and he oversteered there and just went off a little bit.
Yeah, he screwed himself with his oversteer as well.
Exactly. So I think that there's 2 things happening. I think, by the way, if we talk about the yellow, I don't think we should put too much effort into this, but better safe than sorry. Something happens. There's a slow driving car in a blind corner where you're going top speed. It's yellow. Period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And if it happens for him, sure. But I don't think if you have the fastest car on the track, right? Why would you in Q2? You only need to get like top 15 or
This was
Q3,
Q1, wasn't
Q3.
even
Yeah, sorry,
Q2.
Q1 even. Yeah.
Yeah.
You only need to get top 15. Why would you have to wait for the final
Yeah, there's
corner
no
on
reason.
the track where one incident can kill your whole qualifying? It's
Yeah,
not like you're qualifying for pole position at that moment.
no,
I
there's no need
think
for
it's
it.
a team mistake first.
Yeah, I think it is as well. Yeah, they shouldn't have left him out. And I can't remember what the circumstances were or what might have been that led to them thinking they should go out later on.
Well,
Whether the
track
track was
development was
busy
good,
or
but
what.
not like they got in like the difference was a second between 1 and
Yeah,
15,
track,
1.2 or something.
track evolution was pretty massive when you saw.
Well, until Q2. So
Yeah, who was it? Was it Albon who there was one of the cars that was normally like pretty low down, shot up to like fourth position or something. So maybe they were scared of that. Maybe they thought they were safe before.
there's more than a second difference between number 10 and number 15.
Yeah.
So there's
But
no reason to. It's
he,
never going to be that bad.
yeah, but his first lap was obviously bad enough that he didn't get through anyway, did he? Because that's the point, is that he missed his second lap
That
and
is
he didn't
true.
get through. So track evolution probably had a part in that as well. Everybody improved, but still, don't go out last. Just be one of the like middle of the pack sort of guys. Go out, or even if it's like one of the first of the second runs, go out, get your lap in, play it safe, get back in the pits, get ready for Q2.
Yes, 100%.
Um,
Anyways,
and
James,
especially
talk about bad calls. Shall we go into the predictions?
okay, yeah.
I want to go there. I don't want to go there, James, but that's good.
I do.
Yeah, I know why. So every week we predict the upcoming race, who gets pole, who wins the race, who's the first DNF, and there's a bonus question involved. The current result, James, is 24 points for you, 23 points for myself, and whoever gets the question right gets 1 point.
Yeah.
He said the pole position is going to be for Lando, and I did so as well. Well, we got it wrong horribly. GG, Charles. You said Lando is also going to win this. Well, not really. And I said Piastri is going to win this.
15th.
Wait, what? Did I say Piastri is going to win this? I did, James. Yeah. Which means it's 24. Oh, which would be brilliant, except for the last two questions. You said the first DNF is for Yuki. I said, oh, cool.
Poor Yuki. He's having some bad luck this season.
Well, it wasn't his smartest move either. He's definitely steered in. He could have left space there.
Yeah, but why is Stroll sticking his nose in there? Like that was I thought Stroll
I mean,
was
yes,
pretty stupid as well, really.
Also not needed. Look, Yuki could have done that better, and he gave you a point.
Maybe, but oh yeah, I mean, thanks, Yuki. I'm sure that's why he did it. He listens to this podcast and just James seems like a nice guy. I'll help him out and just bin my race for him.
25-24 for you, man.
Indeed.
Bonus question. How many virtual safety cars are there?
Mm-hmm.
You said 1. I said 2. We got 1.
Yeah. I did, yeah.
So the results...
I didn't think I'd win that one. Well, actually, I was hopeful because that was specifically virtual safety car.
Yes.
I'm very surprised that we didn't see a safety car at all. Once again, Bert's just not getting any laps in.
26-24 for you, James.
Yeah.
We're going into... I wish I just had 25 points for getting right where Nui would go to, but hey.
Well, there's all the start of the season predictions, which mean more than these predictions. So
true. Definitely.
End of the season could massively change things around.
True. James, Singapore.
Yes.
One more race before another summer break, sort of.
Yeah.
Singapore. Who gets pole?
It's a bumpy old track in Singapore. I'm going to say Leclerc.
I actually put Norris already in your next to your name. Okay. Then I'm gonna go for Piastri.
Okay. I mean, he's on form.
Exactly. James, who's gonna win it?
Who is going to win? I want to see Norris win it just because I want the championship to be more open than it currently is. I mean, it looks pretty close, but like you said, there's a big break. There's an opportunity for some upgrades. Everything might change. I'm going to go with Norris.
That I put on your name already. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, the other advantage, certainly if it goes the way we've already been predicting or hoping, is that Piastri might make way for Norris. So
Yes. So I'm saying Russell will win.
Russell. Yeah. Russell, famous for having amazing results at Singapore.
No, of course I can't say that, but I will, just for the sake of it, James.
I mean, Mercedes do well there, or they did last year. I think they didn't do too bad the year before either.
Yeah. They might take out Norris as well. So.
Yeah, I do feel like it's a track where Mercedes could have
anything
a good result,
can happen there. Anything.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to be a Mercedes driver, I want it to be Lewis, of course.
I mean,
because
me as well. But honestly,
I just
Norris
need
is
another get in
always in
there,
the right
Lewis.
space, and Lewis's qualifying has been abysmal.
It has
Can't
been
make it anyway.
really bad this season, yeah.
So
that used to be one of his absolute, strongest pieces of equipment in his armory or whatever. His qualifying is nowhere this season, unfortunately. But yeah, I need to get in there, Lewis. I need another Bono and Lewis moment.
I wouldn't mind it. Like last match of the year, Max winning the World Driver Championship, McLaren getting the World Constructor titleship. By the way, they're first now, and Lewis getting his last win at Mercedes. I think that sounds like a pretty complete picture.
Yeah.
Huh? Or Checo Perez smacking Sainz's helmet, but
yeah.
Let's not go there. James, first DNF in Singapore.
First DNF. Perez.
Can't say Sergeant. Just reminding you can't say Sergeant.
I've already said Perez.
Oh. Checo.
Yeah.
No, he finally beat Max. 18-1 now on the qualifier.
He's going to be too desperate for a good result because he was having, to be fair, a very good race up until his collision.
True.
He's going to be pushing too hard for that again, and he's going to crash it.
Yes. Unfortunately, though, so will Norris.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay.
What happens if Checo takes out Norris?
That's going to be like the Valtteri bowling stuff all over again.
I'm all up for it. I'm all up for it. He's a Flexi wing. Take it.
It would be sad if that happened. To be fair,
I mean 100%. I mean, I'm kidding about it, right? I'm not asking anything like that to happen. I'd rather have a good race. James, it's bonus question time.
Yeah.
Here it is. On which position will Max Verstappen finish?
Ooh. Where did he finish last year? He didn't finish very well last year, but the car's different. So I'm just going to go with 5th.
Good call, I think.
This isn't a massive turn of events considering how we used to have to cover this part of the podcast.
I'm going to say 6th.
Earlier on in the season, we were joking that we need to change the question of who's going to win because it's always Max.
You can't predict this sports anymore.
No. And now it's, where's Max even going to finish?
So that's why I wanted to put on the list. Just to show I'm not that biased, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll finish Max on 6th. Well, I'm going to see what happens. 26-24 in your advantage, James.
Yeah.
Right. James, what's going on in the world of sim racing where we all need to know about? What's going on there?
Cars go fast in circles.
Yes, I don't.
We're on week 2 of season 4 of iRacing, I suppose.
Yes,
Yeah.
what a wonderful week we had. I got
Wonderful week.
promoted. I also crashed a lot,
Yeah.
a whole lot.
Yeah. Last season, the pair of us were doing Formula cars. This year, we're a little bit more, or this season rather, we're a little bit more on the sports cars so far. So I've
Yes,
done a little bit of both, really. But
I think it's a good thing there's no Mazdas in Formula One for you.
there's no what? Sorry.
No Mazdas in Formula One.
Oh God, I hate
Yeah.
the MX-5. I don't like the car in real life,
Nope.
and I don't like it in iRacing.
No.
Yeah. Anyway,
We'll see that. Go check out the channel, of course. We are preparing some cool content there, if I do say so myself, except, of course, also this podcast. But we're also doing some racing content there, so go check it out. Our new intro should be live soon there as well. So I think it's funny.
Yeah, probably not long after this podcast goes live.
Exactly. Maybe even sooner. All right. James, thank you very much. I will see you next week after the Singapore Grand Prix.
Absolutely.
And that means a couple of weeks of no Formula One in the meanwhile.
Yeah.
So
no little break.
Another. It feels so short.
I know.
But it's a good one for us as Red Bull fans.
Yeah.
I hope. Got some opium for the next 3 weeks. I'm looking forward to Singapore though. I quite love that track, except for the fact my team never performs there. But
I like it. Well, I was going to say don't get a lot of overtaking. It's not too bad for overtaking. There's only really.
We had a great race last year, honestly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
very tactical last year with Sainz and Norris.
And Russell going straight on in the last corner or 3 corners for the end or something. So
yeah.
But one hint of critique, if I may say so.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do Baku in this time of the day again.
No,
I can't see the car with the suns. I don't even know if it's a Ferrari or a Red Bull. It's
bad for the driver's sight, bad for viewing. Just that one shot down the straight, looking at the cars coming towards corner 1.
You only see the sun reflection, and these cars are matte.
Yeah,
can you imagine what happens if they were flashy?
You couldn't make out which car was which half the time. It looked pretty the first time. It's that kind of golden hour silhouette shot, which is nice. But it's not great for spectating a sport. It's nice from an artistic point of view. So
also,
please
that's one thing. Second thing is they have those new fancy camera settings where they put a label on the car in chase cams. Yeah. I don't need to have that label on the car when we are in chase cams because I know who we're chasing. Like it sets on the bottom of the screen. Yeah. But if you can't make out the cars, you could use that graphic to make sure that we know which cars are fighting each other on the straight.
Yeah, that would be handy.
Just a little hint. And also, if you use picture-in-picture, which apparently they discovered this year in Formula 1 for the first time ever, which is a good development, and you put up a replay, make sure it says replay. Because I got scared a couple of times during practice and qualifying, where cars going straight on. And then seeing it happen again in the replay, in the picture-in-picture, but that was a replay. I was like, no, not again. Oh, it's the same course. It's a replay. Never mind. Just a couple of little tips for you, FOM. And I know you're watching because else we wouldn't get that cease and desist email. So take that feedback into consideration. Thank you very much, James. See you next week.
Absolutely.
And I have nothing left to say. See you next week, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later.